On Thanksgiving morning, my daughter looked me dead in the eyes across my own kitchen table and said, "Dad, you're 64 years old. You don't work. You don't do anything. You're just furniture that eats." Her husband nodded like she'd said something reasonable. That's the moment I understood I'd spent 31 years and over $400,000 raising a daughter who thought retirement meant expiration. So I did the one thing they never saw coming. I emptied my savings, handed them a cashier's check for every penny I owed on the house, signed it over to them free and clear, packed one duffel bag, and booked a one-way flight to Crete. The letter I left under the turkey platter rewired their entire lives. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. I'm recording this from a rented terrace in Chania on the northwest coast of Crete, where the Venetian harbor turns gold around 5 in the afternoon, and old men play backgammon outside cafes that have been open since before I was born. Nobody here knows I used to be Raymond Holt, Senior Facilities Engineer at Consolidated Power in Chicago, Illinois for 38 years. Nobody here cares, and that's exactly why I stayed. Thanksgiving morning, my house on Birchwood Lane in Naperville. The house I bought in 1993 for $212,000 with my wife Dorothy, back when Naperville was still half cornfields. I'd been up since 5 o'clock seasoning the turkey, peeling sweet potatoes, rolling out biscuit dough from Dorothy's recipe, the one she'd written on an index card in her careful handwriting and taped inside the cabinet door. She'd been gone 4 years by then. Pancreatic cancer, fast and cruel. 8 weeks from diagnosis to funeral. I set the table for 5. Me, my daughter Stephanie, her husband Craig, and their 2 kids. Olivia was 9, still young enough to think rabble was interesting. Little Theo was 3, mostly interested in destroying things. They arrived at noon. Craig walked in first, didn't take off his shoes, headed straight for the recliner, and turned on the football pregame. Stephanie carried Theo on her hip and set a store-bought pie on the counter without looking at me. "Smells good, Dad." That was it. No hello. No happy Thanksgiving. Just smells good, like I was the help. I'd been swallowing this kind of thing for 3 years, ever since they'd moved in. Craig lost his regional manager position at a furniture chain when the company restructured. Stephanie's medical billing job had gone remote, but the pay got cut. They couldn't make rent in their apartment in Aurora anymore. 2 adults, 2 kids, drowning. So I said yes. Of course I said yes. Because that's what fathers do. The deal was simple. Live here rent-free until you get back on your feet. 6 months, maybe a year. That was 3 years ago. In those 3 years, Craig found a new job. Sales at a commercial flooring company. Decent money, too. He'd bragged about his commission checks more than once. Stephanie kept her remote billing job. Between them, they were pulling in maybe $95,000 a year and paying exactly 0 in rent, 0 in utilities, 0 in groceries. I covered everything. Because family. Dinner was ready by 2. I carved the turkey, poured the gravy into Dorothy's gravy boat, the white one with the blue flowers she'd found at an antique shop in Galena on her 20th anniversary trip. Set everything out the way she would have. Craig ate with his phone propped against his water glass, watching game highlights. Stephanie cut Theo's food into pieces and talked to Craig about some kitchen renovation show they'd been binge-watching. Nobody said grace. Dorothy always said grace. After the pie, I reached into my jacket pocket. I'd been carrying this envelope for a week, waiting for the right moment. Inside was a check for $12,000. Stephanie had called me 2 weeks earlier, stressed about property taxes coming due on a rental condo. Craig's mother had left him in Joliet. Plus holiday expenses, she said. Plus Olivia needed braces. "Stephanie, I have something for you." I slid the envelope across the table. "Happy Thanksgiving." She opened it with one hand while scrolling her phone with the other. Looked at the check. Her face didn't change. Not gratitude, not surprise, not anything. 12,000, flat, like I'd handed her a coupon for laundry detergent. "I know it's not everything you need, but it should cover the property taxes and get started on Olivia's dad." She set the check down next to the cranberry sauce. We need to talk about something. Craig put his phone down. First time he'd looked at me all day. They exchanged that look. The one married couples do when they've rehearsed a conversation. What's going on? This. Stephanie gestured around the kitchen. Around my kitchen. This whole arrangement. It's not working anymore. What do you mean? You're here all the time, Dad. Every morning when I come down for coffee, you're sitting at the table reading your newspaper like it's 1987. When Craig gets home from work, you're in the living room watching Jeopardy with the volume up too loud. The kids can't play in the backyard without you coming outside to supervise. It's like living under surveillance. This is my house, I said slowly. I live here. Exactly. Craig spoke up. First full sentence he directed at me in weeks. It's your house. You remind us of that constantly. Your thermostat settings. Your rules about shoes on the carpet. Your thing about the garage door being closed by 9 p.m. Those aren't unreasonable, Dad. Stephanie leaned forward. You're 64 years old. You don't work. You don't do anything. You're just furniture that eats. Craig and I are trying to build a life here, raise our kids, and you're just always here. In the way. Furniture that eats. The words hit like a physical thing. Like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed. I looked at Olivia. She'd stopped eating her pie, watching us with wide eyes. Looked at Theo, oblivious, mashing sweet potato into the tablecloth Dorothy had embroidered. What exactly are you suggesting? Craig cleared his throat. We think you should sign the house over to us. You've got your pension, your 401k, Social Security when it kicks in. You could get a small apartment somewhere. Something manageable. A senior community, maybe. You'd be around people your own age. Activities, bingo or whatever. Bingo or whatever. 38 years of work. A $490,000 house. And my son-in-law was offering me bingo. And if I say no? Silence. Then Stephanie, quietly, then maybe we need to look at other options. For everyone. What other options? We've been looking at assisted living facilities. Some of them are really nice, Dad. They have meal plans and social activities, and I'm 64, I said. I ran a maintenance crew of 42 people for 2 decades. I'm not going to assisted living. Then work with us on the house. Craig's voice carried an edge now. Be reasonable. I stared at them. My daughter, who had walked to school every day until 5th grade, who had taught to ride a bike in this very driveway, who had held while she sobbed at her mother's funeral. And Craig, the man I'd welcomed into my home, my family, my life, who was now telling me to sign away the one thing I had left and go play bingo. I need some air, I said. That's your answer to everything. Stephanie's voice followed me toward the back door. Just walk away. Just avoid. That's what you've always done. I stepped outside. November in Illinois. Cold enough to see your breath. Dorothy's garden was dead for the winter, just frozen dirt and stakes where the tomatoes used to be. I stood there in the cold for 20 minutes, hands shaking. Not from the temperature. Back inside, I walked past them without a word. Went to my bedroom, the master bedroom that used to smell like Dorothy's perfume and now smelled like nothing. Sat in the dark on the edge of the bed we'd shared for 27 years. At 2 a.m, I got up and went to the filing cabinet. Property records. Mortgage statements. Purchase history. The house was in my name only. Dorothy and I had discussed adding Stephanie years ago, but Dorothy had said something I never forgot. Ray, wait. Let her earn her place in the world first. Don't hand her things she hasn't worked for. I opened my laptop and started calculating. 3 years of free rent in a 4-bedroom house in Naperville. Market rate $2,800 a month minimum. Times 36 months. $100. $800. Property taxes I'd paid. 90-ton a year times 3 years. $27,600 a year times 3 years. Utilities, gas, electric, water, trash, internet, cable. About $456 a dollars times 36. $16,200 Groceries for 5 people, $900 a month average, $32,400. Direct financial gifts. Craig's car repair after he rear-ended someone in a parking lot, $6,400. Down payment assist on the Joliet rental condo, $15,000. Olivia's private school tuition for 1 year before they pulled her out, $11,500. Emergency vet bill for their dog, $3,200. Cash gifts at birthdays, Christmas, random, we're short this month calls, roughly $14,000 over 3 years. Total, $227,100. And I was furniture that eats. I pulled up my accounts. Pension from Consolidated Power, $3,800 a month, guaranteed for life. 401k balance, $310,000. Savings account, $67,000. Checking, $18,000. Remaining mortgage balance on the house, $48,000. Remaining mortgage balance on the house, $48,000. I'd refinanced once after Dorothy died, pulled out some equity to help Stephanie with the condo down payment. Still owed $48,000. Total liquid assets, approximately $395,000, plus the house worth $490,000. Plus pension income that would keep coming regardless. Then I did the math on something else. Cost of living in Greece. I've been reading about it for months. An article in ARP magazine about American retirees in Crete. Low cost of living. Excellent health care. Warm weather year-round. A place where old people were respected, where grandparents weren't considered furniture. Average rent for a furnished apartment in Chania, $700 a month. Groceries, utilities, everything else, maybe at $1,200 a month total. My pension alone covered that with room to spare. Wednesday morning, I called my lawyer, Phil Chen, estate attorney in downtown Naperville. Phil, I need to know my options. My daughter and her husband have been living in my house for 3 years. No lease. What are their rights? Phil was quiet a moment. Legally, very limited. They're essentially month-to-month occupants. Illinois law, you give them 30 days written notice. Ray, what happened? I told him. He was quiet for a long time. I'm sorry, Ray. What do you want to do? I want them out. And Phil, I want them out. And Phil, I want to do something else. I want to pay off the remaining mortgage and sign the house over to them. Wait. You want to give them the house? After what they said. I want them to understand exactly what they lost. Not the house. Me. I want them to live in that house knowing that the man they called furniture loved them enough to hand them a $500,000 home and walk away. I want that to eat at them every single morning they wake up in my bedroom. Phil was quiet again. That's either the most generous thing I've ever heard or the most devastating. It's both. He drafted the paperwork. Quit claim deed, transferring ownership to Stephanie and Craig upon my departure. I'd pay off the remaining $48,000 mortgage first, so they receive it free and clear, no strings, no conditions. Just a house full of memories from a man they'd discarded. Thursday, I went to the bank. Paid off the $48,000 mortgage in full. The loan officer congratulated me. I didn't feel like celebrating. Went to a travel agency, one-way ticket from O'Hare to Heraklion, Crete, connecting through Athens. Departure, Saturday, 5:40 a.m. 2 days away, $940. Found an apartment listing in Chania. Furnished, 1 bedroom above a bakery, walking distance to the Venetian harbor. $650 a month. $652 a month. Emailed the owner, a Greek woman named Eleni, who responded within an hour. Welcome, Mr. Holt. I hold it for you. Wired first and last month's rent. Set up international access on my pension deposits. Researched visas. Americans can stay in Greece 90 days without a visa, longer with a residence permit for retirees, which Greece actively encouraged. Everything was moving. Momentum like a train. I couldn't stop it and didn't want to. Friday night. I couldn't stop it and didn't want to. Friday night. I wrote the letter. 6 drafts before I got it right. Stephanie and Craig. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not gone the way you apparently want me to be. Gone on my own terms. Enclosed, you'll find the quitclaim deed transferring ownership of 1847 Birchwood Lane to you, free and clear. I've paid off the remaining mortgage. The house is yours. All of it. The house I bought with your mother in 1993. The house where you took your first steps, Stephanie. The house where I held your mother's hand for the last time. You wanted it. You have it. Enjoy it. In 3 years of living under my roof, I provided you with housing, food, utilities, and direct financial support totaling $227,100. In return, I received the privilege of being called furniture that eats by my own daughter on Thanksgiving Day in my own kitchen. I'm 64 years old. I have 2 good decades ahead of me, probably more. I've chosen to spend them somewhere I'm treated like a human being instead of an obstacle. Don't contact me. I won't answer. When Olivia is old enough to understand, tell her that Grandpa loved her more than anything, but tell her that Grandpa had to love himself too, because nobody else in that house was going to do it. I forgive you both. I just can't be near you anymore. Raymond Holt. I folded the letter around the deed and the mortgage payoff confirmation. Sealed everything in a manila envelope, wrote on the front, Stapani and Srag. Open immediately. Placed it under the turkey platter in the kitchen cabinet. They'd find it when they went looking for leftovers. Felt right. Thanksgiving leftovers and the leftover father they didn't want. Packed 1 duffel bag, clothes for warm weather, laptop, phone charger, passport, Dorothy's wedding ring on the chain I wore around my neck, a framed photo of her holding newborn Stephanie in the hospital, both of them glowing. I wasn't leaving Dorothy behind. She was coming with me. Left behind everything else. 30 years of accumulated life. Left behind everything else. 30 years of accumulated life. Books, tools, winter coats, the recliner Craig had claimed, the kitchen table where my daughter had called me furniture, all of it was just weight. Saturday. 3:45 a.m. Uber to O'Hare. Driver named Kofi, quiet, Ghanaian accent. Loaded my bag without questions. We pulled away from Birchwood Lane. The house was dark. Everyone sleeping. I watched it shrink in the mirror and felt something crack open in my chest. Not breaking. Releasing. O'Hare at 4:30. Check-in. Security. Terminal 5. Bad coffee from a kiosk. I sat at the gate watching the runway lights blink in the pre-dawn dark. My phone buzzed at 9:14 a.m. I was already in the air, somewhere over the Atlantic, but I'd see it when I landed. 17 missed calls by the time I checked in Athens. 12 from Stephanie. 5 from Craig. A cascade of texts I didn't read. 1 voicemail I listened to, just 1. Stephanie crying, "Dad, what the hell is this? You can't just... Dad, please call me back. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. It was Thanksgiving stress. I was tired. The kids were, Dad, please. Where are you? Are you okay? Please just tell me you're okay." Thanksgiving stress. 3 years of treating me like an appliance, and it was Thanksgiving stress. I turned off the phone, boarded my connecting flight to Heraklion. 3 hours later, Crete appeared below me, brown and green and surrounded by water so blue it didn't look real. Eleni met me at the apartment, 60-something, silver hair pulled back, smile lines deeper than any wrinkle. She pressed a key into my hand and a container of homemade moussaka into the other. "You eat first," she said. "Then you rest. Crete will be here tomorrow." The apartment was small, tile floors, white walls, a balcony overlooking the harbor. I could hear the bakery below starting its morning prep, smell bread rising. I stood on that balcony for a long time, eating moussaka with a plastic fork, watching fishing boats bob in water that caught the light like broken glass. I slept 12 hours. The first 2 weeks were strange. Not bad, just unfamiliar. Learning which shops sold what. Figuring out Greek coffee, which was strong enough to dissolve problems. Walking the harbor promenade, past the Venetian lighthouse, past restaurants where old men argued about soccer and politics. Nobody asked me for anything. Nobody expected anything. Nobody looked through me. Met other expats at a cafe near the harbor called Sunset Corner. Bill and Irene from Phoenix, both 71. Retired postal workers who'd sold their condo and moved 3 years ago. Lars from Sweden, 67. Former high school principal who spent his days photographing stray cats. Anna from Brazil, 58. Artist, loud laughs, strong opinions about olive oil. They asked why I came. I told them. Anna put her hand over mine. Good, you chose you. That's not selfish. That's the first smart thing. Bill nodded. Our son didn't speak to us for 2 years when we left. Thought we were abandoning him. He was 43 years old with a 6-figure job. He visited last spring. Saw how happy we were. Apologized. Does that always happen? I asked. No, Irene said honestly. Sometimes they never come around, but that's their choice, not your problem. You can't destroy yourself so ungrateful people stay comfortable. Third week. I walked into a ceramic studio near the old town, run by a Greek man named Yanis, maybe 50, big hands, patient voice. He taught pottery classes for tourists and locals. You ever throw clay before? He asked. Never. Good, no bad habits to unlearn. The first bowl I made was terrible. Lopsided, too thick, collapsed on one side. But sitting at that wheel, hands wet with clay, concentrating on something completely new, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Focus. Purpose. The particular satisfaction of making something with your hands instead of watching your value drain away in someone else's estimation. I went back the next day. And the next. By week 4, my bowls were still ugly, but they held water. You're improving, Yanis said. I'm 64. My hands aren't what they used to be. Your hands are fine. It's your patience that needs work. Stop rushing. The clay knows when you're impatient. Started learning Greek, too. Basic phrases first. Kalamera, good morning. Epharisto, thank you. Sinomi, excuse me, a language school for expats met twice a week at the community center. My teacher was Dimitra, 26, studying linguistics, impossibly cheerful. You're doing wonderfully, Raymond. I mispronounced every word in that sentence. But you tried every word in that sentence. But you tried every word in that sentence. That's what matters. 5 weeks in, I powered on my American phone for the first time. Needed to check that Phil had filed everything correctly. The phone nearly vibrated off the table. 91 missed calls. 50-something texts. 20 voicemails. I ignored all of it. Found Phil's emails. Latest one dated yesterday. Ray. All paperwork filed. House transferred successfully. Stephanie and Craig now legal owners of 1847 Birchwood Lane, free and clear. They've retained a lawyer. Their attorney sent a letter demanding a return address and contact information. I declined, citing client privilege. They have no legal grounds for anything. The transfer was voluntary and documented. Hope you're well. I replied, I'm in Crete. I'm staying. Thank you for everything, Phil. Handle anything that comes up. Send me the bills. Then I blocked Stephanie and Craig's numbers. Deleted every text without reading. Powered the phone down again. Bought a Greek SIM card the next day. New number. Gave it to Phil, to Eleni, to the pension office. No one else. 3 months in Chania. My life had a rhythm. Mornings, Greek lessons and coffee at the harbor. Late mornings, ceramics with Yanis. Afternoons, walking the coast, reading on the balcony, exploring villages in the hills where old women offered me oranges from their trees and asked me in Greek if I was married. Evenings, dinner with the expat group, or alone with grilled fish and a glass of wine and a sunset that looked painted. Met someone too. Her name was Sophia. Greek, 62, widowed. Ran a small bookshop on a side street behind the cathedral. Spoke English with a British accent she'd picked up from 20 years of selling books to tourists. We met at Sunset Corner, bonded over a shared opinion that people who dog-ear library books should face consequences. Coffee became lunch. Lunch became dinner. Nothing serious, just the particular comfort of someone who looked at you and saw a person, not a problem. "You seem sad sometimes," she said one evening over wine. "Then it passes and you look surprised to be happy." "I'm relearning happiness. It's been a while." "Your daughter?" "Yes. My son did something similar. Not as cruel, but similar. Wanted my apartment in Athens, wanted me out of the way. I came here instead. We speak now, but carefully, like people handling glass." "Do you regret leaving?" "I regret that leaving was necessary. I don't regret the leaving itself." 4 months in, Phil emailed again. "Ray, interesting development. Craig and Stephanie are divorcing. Apparently the financial strain and the situation with you created significant conflict. Craig moved out. Stephanie is in the house alone with the kids. She's struggling with property taxes. DuPage County sent a delinquency notice. She's also behind on utilities, just keeping you informed. I read it twice. The house I'd given them free and clear, and within 4 months, they couldn't manage the taxes on it. The $1,900 a year I'd paid without complaint for 30 years. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt tired of people who couldn't handle freedom once they got it. Didn't respond for 2 days. Then, not my problem, Phil. But if the kids are in trouble, if Olivia or Theo need anything directly, set up a trust. I'll fund it. Nothing goes through Stephanie or Craig, direct to the kids, managed by your office. Phil set it up within a week, $25,000 to start. Earmarked for education, healthcare, necessities. Accessible only through Phil's firm. Stephanie couldn't touch it. 5 months in. The email came. Not from Stephanie. From Olivia. Subject line: Grandpa Ray. My hand stopped on the trackpad. Then I opened it. Dear Grandpa Ray. Mom doesn't know I'm writing this. I use the school computer. I'm 10 now, almost 10 and a half. I miss you so much. Mom and Dad are divorced. Dad lives somewhere else. Mom cries a lot. I found your address from Phil's office on the letter Mom had. I hope that's okay. I read your letter that you left, the one under the turkey plate. I didn't understand all of it, but I understand now that we hurt you and I'm sorry. Not sorry because Mom told me to be. Sorry because I remember you making pancakes on Saturdays and reading to me before bed, and the way you used to call me Little Bird. Nobody calls me that anymore. Could we maybe talk on the phone sometime, or video call, if you don't want to? That's okay too. I just miss you, Grandpa. Love, Olivia. I read it 9 times. Went to the balcony. Watched the harbor turn gold. Watched the fishing boats. Let something tight in my throat slowly release. She was 10. She hadn't called me furniture. She hadn't demanded anything. She just missed her grandpa who made pancakes and called her Little Bird. But opening this door, would Stephanie push through it? Would this become a new form of leverage? Sophia found me on the balcony that evening. I showed her the email. She read it slowly, then sat beside me. What will you do? I want to answer. She's innocent in all of this, but I'm afraid. Of what? That it becomes a way back in. That Stephanie uses her. Then you set the boundary in the reply, clear and kind. Olivia is smart enough to understand. I wrote back that night, 4 drafts. Dear Olivia, I'm so happy you wrote to me. You have no idea how much. I would love to video call with you, but I need you to understand something. What happened between your mom and me is complicated. Adults sometimes hurt each other in ways that are hard to fix. I love your mom, but I need distance from that hurt right now. You and I can have our own relationship. Just us, Grandpa and Little Bird. But it has to stay between us. If your mom tries to use our calls to send me messages or fix things, I'll have to stop. That's not a punishment. It's protection. For both of us. I'm happy here in Crete. I make pottery now, badly. I'm learning Greek, also badly. I eat too much bread from the bakery downstairs, and I think about you every single day. Sunday mornings, my time would be. Saturday evening, yours. Would that work? Love, Grandpa Ray. She replied in 40 minutes. Yes, Saturday works. And Grandpa, Mom did ask me to tell you she's sorry, but I won't bring that up again. I promise. Just us. Also, you make pottery? Can you make me a bowl, love, little bird? We video called that Saturday. Her face on the screen cracked something open in me. She'd lost her front teeth. Hair was longer, pulled back in a ponytail she'd clearly done herself, a little crooked. Still Olivia. Still my little bird. We talked for an hour. She told me about fourth grade, about her best friend moving away, about the stray cat she'd been feeding that she named Professor Whiskers. I told her about Shania, about the bakery downstairs, about the time I'd accidentally told a shopkeeper I was a beautiful potato instead of saying, "Thank you very much" in Greek. She laughed so hard she snorted. I'd missed that sound more than I'd known. Are you coming home, Grandpa? Crete is my home now, sweetheart. But maybe you could visit someday, when you're a little older. I'd show you the harbor and the lighthouse and Yanis's pottery studio. I'd like that. Then we'll make it happen. She waved goodbye. The screen went dark. I sat there for a long time, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Tethered. Not trapped, not used, just connected to someone who loved me simply because I was her grandpa. Not because I paid bills, not because I was useful. Just because. It wasn't perfect. Perfect would have been my daughter calling me, really calling me, not through a 10-year-old intermediary. Admitting what she'd done, understanding that calling your father furniture in his own home on Thanksgiving crosses a line you can't uncross with "I was stressed." But perfect wasn't on the table. This was. This quiet thread of connection that didn't cost me my dignity. Now, sitting in this cafe in Chania, 8 months after leaving Naperville, I'm watching a fisherman mend his nets on the harbor wall, hands moving with the kind of purpose that comes from doing something that matters, even if it's small. The sun is warm. My Greek coffee is almost empty. Sophia will be here in 20 minutes. Olivia and I have her call tonight. I'm making her a bowl in Yanis's studio. Lopsided, sure, but made with hands that still work, attached to a man who still has a point. The house on Birchwood Lane belongs to my daughter now. She can barely afford the taxes on it. Greg is gone. The life they demanded has turned out to be harder than they imagined when the man they called furniture was doing everything they didn't notice. And I'm here, 64 years old, learning a new language, making terrible pottery that's getting slightly less terrible, writing about what it means to start over when the people who should love you most decide you've expired, eating bread from a bakery that knows my name, building a life where retired doesn't mean useless, where old doesn't mean over, where having a point isn't something other people get to decide for you. If you're listening to this and something sounds familiar, if someone in your life has made you feel like your worth ended when your paycheck did, here's what I know now. You don't owe anyone your dignity. Not your kids, not your family, not anyone. Love is real and family matters, but self-respect isn't negotiable. The moment you let someone convince you that you're furniture, you start acting like it, and furniture doesn't get up and leave. I got up, I left, and every morning, I walk out onto my balcony in Chania. I look at that harbor, those fishing boats, that impossible blue water, and I remember the same thing. I have a point. I always did. I just had to cross an ocean to find the people who could see it. The fisherman on the harbor wall just looked up and waved at me. I waved back. Two men with nowhere urgent to be, doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Existing. Mattering. Being enough. Turns out, that's the whole point.